Hello, everyone. Good to see you. So I am recording this, and I'm going to put it on Teams in our middle school and high school department head teams, as well as other science teams that I have. And I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to get going. This is a CER refresher. All right. So CER stands for Claim Evidence Reasoning Framework. And we're just going to do a little refresher today. And I'm going to give you an example that you can utilize in the classroom with your students to help them kind of get started thinking in the CER framework way. So CER basically is evidence-based writing in science. It requires students to gather, reason with, and communicate what they learned. So an explanation or a scientific argument. It also helps them develop skills and to make and evaluate claims based on various types of evidence. And they're basically demonstrating their understanding of key ideas and concepts within the different content areas or disciplinary core ideas in science. So I really love this infographic because it really lays out exactly what we're asking the students to do. We have our claim, what is what the students know or what they think they know, the evidence after they've done an investigation on how they know what they know. So how do you know that? And then when we talk about middle and high school students, we really want them to start reasoning their evidence. What that means is determining what scientific reasoning, maybe it's a law or a theory that backs up and supports your claim. And that altogether creates a scientific argument or an explanation. Along with this, here is a graphic organizer that I like to use with my middle and high school teachers. That's basically explaining what, my AirPods, one of them just went kaput. Not sure which one it was. Anyways, so here is a sample graphic organizer. So you have your question, what do you want to know? So when you're doing an investigation, what do you want the students to know? And then they're going to make a claim or a statement that answers that question. Next, they're going to actually follow through with an investigation or a lab. And here's where that scientific data and evidence to support that claim comes into play. Data needs to be appropriate for the grade level. So we're talking pictures, graphs, tables, line plots. And you can also utilize observational data as well. In the reasoning section, this is how your evidence justifies your claim. So when I was talking about the scientific principles, theories, laws, making sure that every piece of evidence has justification for why it supports the claim. So we're trying to pull that scientific evidence writing out of the students utilizing the CER framework graphic organizer. How do you know if your students are going to be successful? Well, the success criteria is whether or not students can state a claim in a complete sentence. Students identify evidence to support a claim. Can your students explain how the evidence supports the claim, and does it include a scientific concept or principle in their explanation? So let's look at some examples. So if you have a sheet of paper or a sticky note nearby, we're going to actually do this one together. This is a non-scientific one, but this is an example that you can use with your students to kind of introduce the concept of claim evidence reasoning frameworks. So the question that I'm posing to you is the girl's dad an alien? And I want you to watch this commercial. And then as we're watching it, I want you to jot down or just bullet point some evidence to answer this question. Is the girl's dad an alien?
I have evidence that proves my dad's a space alien. He speaks a weird language. He drinks green stuff. He says he's from Albuquerque. I'm not buying it. I mean, just look at him. And one more thing, he has a spaceship. The evidence doesn't lie. My dad's an alien.
The highly advanced Audi A6, named to car and drivers 10 best.
I have evidence that proves my...
Sorry. So if you are utilizing this with your students and you are introducing a CER framework or CER writing with them, this is a great example of how to introduce it. So we watched the commercial. She explicitly states, here's the evidence why I think my dad's an alien. And you would have your students write down all that evidence. Now you would ask your students to take a piece of paper. You have your question, is the girl's dad an alien? And now you would ask them to write their claim. Yes, the girl's dad is an alien, or no, the girl's dad is an alien. Here is why. Then you have all of your evidence that they can write in a short 1 or 2 sentences to support their claim. And then for introductory purposes, you wouldn't really necessarily add in reasoning, but you could have that reasoning discussion in the class with your students as a whole group. Let's look at another example. This would go great for high school students. All right, this one is, I think it was a Super Bowl commercial back in 2013. But the question here is, did the boy get punched in the face at prom? All right, this is a great introductory CER for your students.
Look at you. So dashing. Come on. Nowadays, lots of people go by themselves.
No, they don't.
Hey, son. Have fun tonight.
All right, another great example of a CER. So what would you do with your students after this? So you're going to introduce this question again, have them write the question at the top of their paper. Did the boy get punched in the face at prom? Then you're going to have them state or make a claim, and that's just one complete sentence. Yes, the boy got punched in the face, or I believe the boy got punched in the face. And then you're going to have them write 2 or 3 sentences of evidence to support their claim. And then you're going to come together, whole group, to add in the reasoning part. You're going to have that as a discussion before you release the students to actually go write their reasoning with those scientific principles. Now, this was another non-science example. Let's take a look at a science example that you can use after you've introduced the CER framework with your students with these non-science examples. This is an activity that I found in an article, and I'm going to post this article with the training video as well. But this is called Learning the Claim Evidence Reasoning Framework. We are going to do an Oreo cookie investigation. The question is, what is double about a double stuffed Oreo? So the investigation part, the first thing you're going to do before they do the investigation is have your students make a claim. The second piece of this lab sheet is actually a graphic organizer that students can use. And it actually lays out right here on the front how to write their argument. So they're going to write their statement to answer the question, what is double about a double stuffed Oreo? Then they're going to use several pieces of evidence from the data table to back up their claim. And then they're going to tie in evidence to scientific or mathematical principles. What does it mean to be double? To round out their argument. So for the investigation, the students are going to make measurements and put them into a class data table that's going to calculate the averages of those data points. And then they're going to use the data to make a claim, and then use evidence and reasoning about what is double about a double stuffed Oreo. It gives the students the parameters to do measurements 1 and 2 first. So if you look at the 8 different measurements they're going to be doing, they're going to be measuring the thickness of the cookie, the mass of the cookie, the thickness of just the wafer, the thickness of the cream, and the mass of the different components, the wafer and the cream, and the diameters. The teacher can decide what units the students need to do their measurements in. And then you can create a OneNote or an Excel through your Microsoft OneDrive for your students to input their data in. So you have a class data chart. After your investigation with that Oreo, and your students can work in small groups for this, or they can work with partners, or you can do it independently if you're trying to socially distance in your classroom. But everybody will get their own Oreo in that case. If not, you're going to need some extra just in case, because Oreos are yummy and your kids are going to want to eat them. So after they do the investigation, that is when they're going to start writing their argument. Now, you might have to pull small groups of students, especially your students that have lower abilities for writing composition. You might have to actually scaffold them and guide them through the writing of their claim, evidence, reasoning argument with this activity. And I have something to help you with that. So something that we have, actually, I think, where's my sentence stems? There they are. We do have CER paragraph sentence stems that your students can use. Say you might have a co-taught inclusion class, or students that need an anchor chart to kind of get them started. This is the perfect paragraph graphic organizer for them to use. This is also really good to support your EL learners as well. So it gives them kind of a fill in the blank sentence stem for the claim. And then you have two pieces of evidence that they can choose a sentence stem from, and 2 pieces of reasoning to support their claims. And it even gives them a conclusion sentence stem as well. If you're going to utilize the CER sentence stems with your students, you really need to make sure you're trying to gradually release them by the end of the year from utilizing these sentence stems. All right, so this is a great way to kind of get your students thinking along the lines of CER frameworks. And I wanted to show you what is developmentally appropriate, the progressions of how students are learning to write a claims, evidence, reasoning paragraph. So for our K-5 students, really we're going to scaffold, and we're going to start out with just our students writing a claim and supporting that claim with scientific evidence. By the time they're in 5th grade, teachers by the end of the year should be having that reasoning discussion with their students. They might not necessarily know all of those scientific principles because they're only in 5th grade, but the natural progression tells us that by middle and high school, they should have a claim statement that answers the question, multiple pieces of evidence to support the claim, and a justification of why that evidence supports the claim. And we want our students utilizing those scientific principles. So we're going to move from the simple to the complex in regards to our grade level bands. All right, so I'm going to stop presenting right now. I just presented a lot of information in like 15 minutes. So anybody with questions? Right. Hey, Patsy. Hey, Kurt. Oh, hey, Kurt. How are you? I haven't seen you in a long time. Hey, Jeff. How are you? All right. So you guys utilize CER in your classrooms already with your students? Excellent. Have you guys ever seen that Oreo activity before? No. Okay.
Lon, I have a question for you with the claim, because over the years, I used to have the students write the claim in the beginning and then tell them that during the process, once they get the evidence, that they can change their claim, they can update the claim. So which way is the best? Let them form the claim at the end, or?
I think the way that you do it is perfectly fine. I've seen it both ways.
Right, okay.
I think it's more beneficial to the students to go with their initial gut feeling and what they already know, because that's explaining like their background knowledge and what they already know. But by the time they do their evidence and they see, oh, my initial thinking was wrong, or they might get halfway through an investigation and realize, oh,
Mm-hmm.
my claim is definitely, my evidence does not support that. I think there's nothing wrong with that. And all the research that I've read on CER says either way is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Jeff, how do you guys utilize it in your class?
I do it as a conclusion. I use like a hybrid engineering design process, scientific method kind of thing, and I use it as the conclusion. So I usually will have them write out their data. Like at the end, they'll have like fill out a chart or a graph, and they'll write graph sometimes, and then just as a completely separate entity. So I'll have them do a hypothesis, or early on I have them do predictions. And if it's like short, I'll do a prediction. But if it's a long investigation, like a week or two, and then they do that as a conclusion, and then I have them like do a pretty just pretty much the way you explained it. I use a lot of simulations as well, so I'm do like
Oh yes, that's a
so
really good.
they do
Yeah.
like a simulation, and then at the end they'll do it as well. So I use it. I've in the last about year I've kind of changed how I do it. I used to use them just really long, like at the end. But I use them now as almost like I'll say like 3 or 4 sentences is fine for like a 1-day activity.
Right.
And a lot of times I give them, and this is something, and it's really in middle school, 7th grade. I tell them how many sentences they need to write. And that really has helped them. Like, give me 3 pieces of evidence, and it's a different one, and give me like the reasonings, like 1 sentence for the claim always, 2 or 3. And sometimes like the microscope one, we use like 4. I think I said like give me 2 pieces of evidence for the animal cell, 2 for the plant cell, and like I'll break down the kind of evidence they kind of need a little bit, and that helps them out a lot, I think.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I think the way that you do that, like the short ones, is a great formative assessment piece. You can see who's getting it and who's not getting the content based on the lab or the investigation that they're doing. A great formative assessment piece as well. And then you could utilize it as a summative assessment as well at the end of a unit if you really wanted to. Like if your students were very capable of creating, maybe a paragraph about it, that would be, to me, that would be a good summative. Patsy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'm incorporating it at the high school level, and I'm virtual now, but I was face-to-face before. And for me, it is the authentic scientific process, taking away the scientific method. That's what they should be doing and thinking about with all of the investigations they do, with everything they study in science. And I was starting out too, how Kurt had talked about putting the claim there instead of having the claim at the beginning. That's where I had the hypothesis, and then they're using this at the end as they progress through high school, and it's getting more in depth. Then I'm using CER as embedded within the reflection questions. That is what they're doing, but we're not calling that anymore. Another scaffolding strategy I found incredibly helpful with it is that at the beginning, when you're teaching it and the students first start doing it, you are stepping through it, then slowly taking away how much of it you're helping with. But the peer review process is huge on this. So having them come up with claim evidence and reasoning at the end, and then they're trading it with 2 other reviewers, and they're using a rubric in order to go through and give feedback. And then each of the students is seeing, well, oh, this is how somebody else did it, and this is how somebody else did it. And together they're able to come up with a much better end product with that peer review process. I had a lot of good luck with that, with the scaffolding.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have several different types of rubrics to go with different graphic organizers. I have so many CER graphic organizers I feel like that people have given me over the years, and rubrics to go with them. So if you guys ever need anything, I can post those on CTLS in your courses and things like that, just so you have different resources. But yeah, utilizing a rubric with it is huge. And I haven't really ever been in a classroom where I've seen them do peer review of it, but I think that's a wonderful idea, because think about if they have conflicting data or conflicting evidence, they're going to have to discuss that. They're going to have to talk that through, like, why is your data different than my data? If they're doing, different things or the same thing, but they're working in different groups and then they switch. I just think that the whole discourse part of it is huge.
Right. And that was one of the second steps, one of the next times we did it, because the first time I spent a lot of time giving the students really direct feedback on every portion of it from me so that we could get more student, boosted so that by the time we're doing the CER, the peer review process together, then we've got some students that are better equipped with handling it. But it's a scaffolding process, and I found that a lot of teachers with freshmen, they would get frustrated with it, and then they're like, oh, this doesn't work. And it's like, no, it's all about the scaffolding. By the end of the semester, I expect them to be able to be competent and be able to do this, and that's going to help them all through all of the other science classes they're going to encounter, because that truly is the process. So I'm thrilled that you're doing this. Thank you so much.
Yay! Yeah, just a little refresher. And one thing I have offered to my department heads and people is like, if you want me to come out to your whole team and do a CER refresher, I can do that too. So if that's something that you want to do, that's, always available for that. But yeah, I'm so glad you added all that. And I'm going to put this recording up and with all of the resources that I have in there. So yeah, we are, this is it. We are running up on 3:55, and that's what time I had us to. So any other last thoughts or questions before we go, or any needs from the science department? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
An alternative I do to the Oreo one, because that actually I see that one a lot, and they do that in my 6th grade. I give them 6 cups of cereal and have them guess which one's name brand and which one's off brand, and they really they get to eat it and taste it, and they look at it and they're like,
okay, send me that lab sheet. Send me that activity. Send me that lesson plan. It's great. It's great. I like that. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Short, sweet, and to the point. Bite-sized science PL. It's always fun. Thanks. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Have a great break next week, everyone, too.
Yes. Enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Alana.
Bye.
Bye.